am Ella, 28 years old. My favorite things are white rice, rice balls, and just rice. Yes, I am a slightly chubby new mother who loves rice with all her heart. I've loved white rice since I was a child, and my mother used to be amazed when I told her that I ate rice from morning to night. My love for rice knows no boundaries, and I even went on a study at a university in the food industry to develop delicious recipes that will go well with rice. It was there I met my current husband, Daniel. We were in the same class, and I was thrilled when he told me that he was a rice farmer. I was born and raised in the city and didn't know anyone who was a rice farmer. He came to the city because he didn't like the fact that his family was a farmer in the countryside. He seemed to be inspired by my love of rice and the fact that I ate it so deliciously every day. After graduation, I followed him back to the countryside to take over the farmhouse, and 2 years later, we got married. Now I work as a dietitian at a nursing home, and I'm always helping with the rice planting and harvesting. The eldest son, who had moved to the city saying he would not take over the family business, came back with a prospective wife, and my in-laws were in a frenzy. Moreover, my husband. If Ella hadn't been smiling so broadly and chomping down on rice balls at that moment, I wouldn't have had any intention of taking over the farm. Would say that, so I am worshipped like a goddess in my in-laws' house. My in-laws are gentle people to begin with, so when they decided to build a house on their property, I had no resistance. I get to eat delicious rice from a rice-producing region every day. My husband and in-laws would not have gone out of business. It was a win-win situation, and we were enjoying our home very much. Our long-awaited first child was born. He was a boy, and we named him Jack. Since there is still a strong sense in our community that the firstborn son has to be the heir of the family, my in-laws, relatives, and neighbors were all overjoyed. Having my beloved husband's child and being blessed by so many people made my days the happiest of my life. My son, who was loved by everyone around me, turned 4 months old. So I decided to go to the health center for a checkup. I was surrounded by babies the same age as my son, and I was excited to think that one day children would become friends with Jack. As I waited for my turn to see the doctor, chatting happily with the kind-looking mother sitting next to me, I suddenly heard a voice above my head. "Where did you buy those luxury brand clothes?" What? I looked up towards the voice and saw a woman with long hair looking down at me and my son. I was puzzled by the sudden question without any form of greeting, but she seemed to be the same new mother and answered with a smile. "Well, my mother-in-law bought it for me, so I don't know." She wiggled her thin eyebrows at my answer. "Wow, your mother-in-law dictates what you wear? That must be tough." "What? Really?" I did hear about a friend of mine who was having trouble with her mother-in-law buying clothes for her, but I was grateful because I'm not that particular and my mother-in-law has good taste. I didn't even know these clothes were a luxury brand in the first place. I felt uncomfortable as she stared at me with her eyes as if she was trying to decide what to wear. I was wondering whether I should leave my seat by pretending to change a diaper when she said to me, "I'll take those clothes off your hand." What? I was so confused I didn't know what she meant, but she started to take off my son's clothes. Hey, what are you doing?" She was blatantly miffed when I hurriedly picked up my son into my arms. "You don't want the clothes your mother-in-law bought for you, so I'm gonna take them." "Huh? No thanks. In the first place, if I give you the clothes he's wearing now, what is my son supposed to wear home? Why don't you just wrap a towel around him and go home? Don't worry, it's not that cold today." No way am I doing that. She was saying something crazy as if it was a matter of course, and my head was in a turmoil. Still, I tried my best to protect my son from getting hurt. "Maria, what's wrong?" A public health nurse, hearing the commotion, came between us with calm movements. "If there's anything bothering you, I'm here to listen. Please, come this way." The nurse gently but firmly led her to another room. Maria, as she was called, clicked her tongue and was taken away by the nurse. "Are you okay?" Yes. The woman next to me, whom I had been having a friendly conversation with earlier, looked at me with concern. Apparently, she had brought that nurse to the scene, and I thanked the woman. I wiped away a cold sweat, thinking about the crazy people in this world. The next day, when I thought such an unpleasant thing would never happen, "Huh? What's wrong, Ella?" As I was about to take in the laundry I had it hung out to dry in the evening, I noticed something odd. One of Jack's clothes was missing. The clothes of my son who had come for his checkup yesterday. I couldn't find that one of his clothing items, let alone the hanger. Oh no, maybe the wind blew it away. "I'm sorry, but you bought it for my son, too." My mother-in-law soothed me with a smile, and I was feeling down. "It's okay. I have another chance to buy clothes for my grandson." Just kidding. I couldn't help but smile at my mother-in-law's playful and kind attitude, even though I'd been feeling down. "I know, let's go shopping tomorrow. Let me know what you like." "Okay." Thanks to my mother-in-law's concern, the case of my son's missing clothes was supposed to be resolved peacefully. However, 5 days later, my son's clothes went missing again. As it was a slightly expensive item my mother-in-law had recently bought for him, even my mother-in-law was suspicious, looking around the yard. Still, we couldn't make a big deal out of the loss of 2 pieces of clothing, so we did nothing about it. 3 days later, after lunch, while dealing with a delivery service, we suddenly looked around the entrance and realized what had happened. The day before, we had been caught in a rainstorm while taking a walk, and we could not find our stroller, which was supposed to be drying out on the porch. "Miss Julia, do you know what happened to the stroller?" "What? No, I don't." "That's weird." The stroller was also a gift from my mother-in-law. Moreover, it was a sturdy and stable foreign brand so that my son could go out with peace of mind. I felt my heart race, and that's when I decided. I was convinced that both the baby clothes and the stroller had been stolen. Whoever it was had stolen my precious son's things. I was boiling with anger. "I'm reporting this to the police." I was taking out my phone. My mother-in-law stopped me. "Calling the police over a missing stroller is crazy. But the stroller and the clothes are precious things that you bought for my son." I knew what she did. My mother-in-law used the computer, which she's not good at using, to gather information on buying baby items. I know that she was truly happy about the birth of my son, and that she took good care of my body and gave me good things. I will never forgive anyone who tramples on my mother-in-law's goodwill. "Ella." My mother-in-law stared at me and sighed, troubled and happy. "All right, but don't contact the police." But, as if to calm me down, she says, "A missing stroller won't get the police to make a move. I'll find the culprit more efficiently. You go take a nap with Jack." After saying this, my mother-in-law picked up her address book and began making phone calls. Listening to the leaked conversation, I couldn't help but be impressed by my mother-in-law's acting ability and skillful speech. Surely, in the countryside, we might not be able to find the culprit this way. As I predicted, the culprit was easily found 3 days later. My mother-in-law thought it was someone who lived nearby, judging by the manner of theft. So my mother-in-law's only action was to make tearful phone calls to the wives in the neighborhood to complain about the damage that was caused. With that, the wives all worked together to gather information. The neighborhood's high opinion of me as a wife who came to the city and did not mind taking care of the rice paddies led me to a powerful response. Well, maybe they're just amused onlookers, but my mother-in-law made a lot of phone calls. By the end of the day, the information had spread throughout the entire neighborhood association, and one of the wives gave me a valuable eyewitness report that she had seen a similar stroller in a neighboring town. Based on this information, we questioned the farmer's wife, who lived in the next town, and she admitted to the crime. The network in the countryside is quite frightening. I was then surprised by a woman who visited our house with a baby stroller accompanied by her husband. She was the woman who had tried to rip off my son's clothes at his 4-month checkup. Apparently, she had followed me home after the checkup while pushing the stroller. I was shocked by the abnormality of being obsessed with someone you have only spoken to once, and horrified at the fact that such a person knew about our house. Her husband was trying his best to apologize, but she was looking as if she were flustered. Did you steal the clothes too? Hey, you even stole clothes? Her husband is pale, but she doesn't even change her expression. What? I only took it because she looked like she didn't want it, she said. Of course I want them. The clothes and the stroller are precious things given to me by my mother-in-law. I don't like that kind of attitude. Huh? She stared at me with hatred in her dead eyes until a moment ago. You're so obsessed with your mother-in-law. You live with her in the countryside because you're poor, aren't you? Don't you have any pride? Huh? My mother-in-law put her hand on my shoulder. I was about to start a fight with her because of her rude attitude. Please, take that stroller home. I will buy a new one for my grandson. I will forward you the bill, she says. What? I brought it all the way here. What are you talking about? Ignoring her rant, my mother-in-law spoke to Maria's husband. Sir, your wife seems to have very sticky fingers. This isn't the first time she's stolen something, is it? What? The blood quickly drained from her husband's face. I heard all about it. I heard you guys were living in this city, but you suddenly moved here as if you were running away. My mother-in-law pointed out a definite fact. Oh no. Her face also turned bloodthirsty. You thought that in the countryside, people would forgive you for a little indiscretion, didn't you? But you know the countryside is scary. Prepare yourself. The two of them were blandly flabbergasted by my mother-in-law, who approached them quietly and unobtrusively, but without averting her eyes, and ran off as if to get away. Miss Julia, how much do you know about the couple? I asked my mother-in-law. She said she quit her part-time job before coming in here because of her pregnancy, but was fired for skimming money from the co-workers in the cash register. She said something she did similar at her husband's company's house and moved away to escape. I heard that her pregnancy was real and she didn't turn herself into the police of the warmth of the people around her. I wonder what will happen to her in the future, since she caused such a commotion in such rural areas. I see. It is really scary in the countryside, where you get so much information in just 3 days. My mother-in-law laughed bitterly, and I returned a small smile. I swore from the bottom of my heart I would never do anything bad. As my mother-in-law had read, she had been misbehaving in many places. People who found out that we had been looted again to come forward and say that they've also been victims of stealing. Each one may be trivial, but the fact remains that she did a lot of evil deeds. Maria's mother-in-law and husband went around apologizing, bowing their heads to everyone. However, she stayed at home and showed no remorse for her wrongdoings. Because of that attitude, the people around her were looking away from her, as if the house was built by an unbelievable wife. It seems that her mother-in-law paid for almost half the cost of what she had done in that town, and when she came to the countryside, she had become a better person. They are disgusted that she came to the countryside and repeatedly did her misdeeds without any apology. I guess Maria's mother-in-law could not stand being ostracized by her neighbors. If you don't divorce your wife, I will give all the inheritance of the house to your brother. She gave Maria's husband, her eldest son, an ultimatum. The husband, who had completely been fed up with his wife, was encouraged by the ultimatum and immediately decided to divorce her. Of course, Maria did not agree with it. One day, about a month after the stroller fiasco, she stormed into our house with an angry face and made steam come out of her head. "Hey, I'm getting a divorce because of you. My son has been taken away from me by my husband and his mother, and you're taking the blame." As I happened to be home alone, I was against her sniving and blaming me, and calmly replied to her words. "You deserved it. Grapes, chicken eggs, watermelons. The damage of various farmers was all you're doing. It's better for a child to grow up without a problematic mother like you. What is wrong with you? There are so many crops out there, it wouldn't be a problem if I took a little bit of it. I thought the country people were more open-minded. What happened to the spirit of mutual help? This woman is crazy. Have you ever done anything to help others or anything else that would make people grateful? In the first place, how can you be allowed to steal the crops that have been carefully nurtured like your own child? The same goes for your baby products. They were bought with money that my mother-in-law obtained through the hard work." "What? You're acting like a good girl. It's disgusting." "I don't care if you find me disgusting. Just smile and be serious, and you'll get a full meal of delicious rice. It's great." "Wow, you're finally showing your true colors." Just when she smiled that snickering smile. "That's fine," a voice behind her said. "What?" Before I knew it, my mother-in-law, who had returned from working in the fields, came up next to me and laughed at her. "It's a blessing to be a rice farmer, and I have a woman who fell in love with our rice and came to marry my son. It's great to have a wife who smiles and helps out in the rice paddies and happily eats her rice. But it's much, much better than a wife like you who only knows how to steal. Ugh. Now why don't you go back to the city you love so much? Or should I call the police?" "What?" I guess she was so shocked that the bond between me and my mother-in-law was so strong, and it completely overturned her outlook on life. She ran away screaming like a child. Oh, I hope she doesn't ever come back here again. I remember my line earlier about being able to eat a full meal of delicious rice while praying that she would never go back. Oh, no, of course. I wasn't just attracted by the rice, you know. I married my husband because I love him too, you know. After the rice, right? I look at my understanding, kind mother-in-law and laugh. The watered rice fields were sparkling in the spring sunlight. My mother-in-law was furious at Maria's unrepentant behavior when she stormed into her house after that. She demanded an immediate lump sum refund of the damage payment she had taken on her shoulders. Naturally, Mia was unable to repay the money, and her flamboyant and confident appearance from the line we first met was just a shadow of her former self. She left the town with shaggy hair and tattered clothes. She would probably end up living a life of debauchery, working in some bar somewhere in the middle of nowhere. 5 months have passed since then, and it is time to take our son, who gradually switched from baby food to regular food. The rice that Daddy made is delicious, isn't it? Mama. Yes, nothing beats fresh rice. Dada. My husband, who was eating next to me, laughed as I chatted with my son while feeding him porridge. Jack is gonna grow up to be a rice lover, isn't he? Of course. He's a happy child who always loved delicious rice by his side. Both my mother-in-law and father-in-law look at us with smiles. Surrounded by my favorite rice and a kind family, I am full of happiness.
It's decided that we'll start living with my parents.
I couldn't believe what I just heard. What the heck are you saying? I exploded everything that I had been holding back and took out my frustration on my husband, Daryl, since I've just had enough, and I could not hold back anymore. I don't want to go to your parents' place since they think of me only as their housekeeper. When I said this out loud, my husband turned bright red and argued back.
Shut up! How dare you argue back against me? Do you even have any idea how much I've been compromising here? If you're only going to be selfish like that, then let's get a divorce.
Saying that, my husband had passed the divorce papers to me.
You know, I can divorce you anytime I want to. If you don't like it, then change that crappy attitude of yours. I'm going back to my parents' house for a while, so cool your head.
With these words, my husband left the house. My name is Aaron. I am 28 years old, and I work in a company. I married my husband, Daryl, 1 year ago. I met my husband at a matchmaking party that a friend invited me to. My husband aggressively approached me, and we began to talk a lot. My husband was 3 years older than me and worked for a well-known company, though not a major one. He seemed friendly and sociable, and he didn't seem like a strange person. He is not too handsome, but he looked pretty clean and kept tidy. After a year of going out, we got married. But soon after our marriage, I regretted my decision to marry my husband.
I'm changing jobs.
Excuse me?
The current company has no future.
But it's a good, stable company, right?
I want to be promoted more for my future career.
If you want to get promoted or something, I think it's fine to continue and work at your current company, though.
But as I said, this company has no future. So even if I get promoted here, there's no point to it, really.
Is that so? But if you do change jobs, your salary will be lower than it is now, right?
Well, it'll be difficult for the first year or so, but don't worry. My income will increase soon.
My husband was so positive and enthusiastic about changing jobs that I had no choice but to accept his decisions. Well, I am also working, and I thought that even if my husband's income dropped a little, we could manage for the time being. But even though I thought I had just married someone with a stable income. However, it is difficult to predict what will happen before marriage. So for the time being, I will just let it happen and trust my husband. But our issues arose somewhere else as well.
You know, you should go to my parents' place regularly and do the house chores for them.
What? My husband suddenly says that out of the blue. Why? Is your mother, Nia, not feeling well?
No, not really, but after all, you're the eldest son's wife, so you have to do these kind of things, you know.
Excuse me? I really couldn't understand Daryl's logic. And no, I've never heard of such a thing, though. And besides, I'm working, and I don't have that kind of time, you know.
It would be nice if you could at least go help out with the house chores on the weekends.
And then, when am I supposed to have my actual day off?
Anyway, I've already told Mom, so please just do me a favor this time. I'll also go with you to my parents' place too. Please, help me take care of my parents.
But why should I be the one to do that? And I'll also go with you too? How condescending can Daryl be? I mean, of course Daryl should do that. If he wants to take care of his own parents, then he should be doing that on his own. But with quitting his job and doing a job hunting, I felt that if I confronted my husband too much, I would offend him and make the current situation worse. So I decided to accept his request for the time being. I'm just going to help out once in a while, okay?
Oh, thank you. You really are a good wife, Aaron.
I'm not really that happy to be praised like that. I gradually began to regret having married to Daryl. And that feeling became even stronger when I started helping out with the house chores at my in-laws' house. Hello? Oh! Oh, thank you for coming over. Well then, please start by cleaning up the bathtub first, okay? Huh? What? You came to help with the house chores, didn't you? Well, yes. But even if that's what I'm here for, normally when we come to visit, you think that Nia would at least have a little chat. Nia made me do this and that as if I was her housekeeper that she hired for free. Well, next is... Nia, can we have lunch soon? Oh, yes, you're right. Then please cook lunch for us. What? With that, Nia would relax in the living room. My father-in-law, Kurt, and my husband were there too. But Daryl was lying on the floor watching TV and laughing. Wow, he really only just came here. It makes me so angry when I see them relaxing while I'm working so hard. If Daryl was just going to be like this, then I wish that he didn't come here with me. After I finished cooking lunch, my in-laws came to the table. Everyone ate without saying anything about the food and watched TV. I mean, they could have at least given me a little feedback about how it tasted. Cooking for 4 people is a lot of work, you know. But none of the in-laws said anything, not even thanked for the food. And they finished eating and went back to the sofa in front of the TV. After you wash the dishes, please clean the yard. I guess I really am their housekeeper. In the end, from the time we arrived at my in-laws' house in the morning until the evening, I was forced to do all the house chores at my in-laws' house. When my husband yawned on the car ride home, I thought I was going to strangle him. Why the hell was he even tired? He was just lying down and watching TV all day, wasn't he?
Well then, let's go visit them next week, okay?
What? Do I have to go back again this month?
You promised you'd go there regularly. You'll have to go every other week or so to clean the yard and take care of other things around my parents' house. I've been trying to compromise with my parents too, you know. They actually want you to come every week.
No way. I will never go there every week. I'm not your parents' housekeeper, you know. There's no way I could visit them that frequently.
But you promised me. Are you trying to break the promise?
I didn't expect to do such a tremendous amount of house chores, you know.
Then just once a month.
Wow. Daryl's just selfish. And that's endless, huh? But it seemed that my husband would never give in to further arguments. So I agreed to go to my parents-in-law's house to help out with the house chores on the condition that it be done once a month. After that, my frustration with my husband continued to build up. But I didn't want a divorce right away. We have been married less than 6 months at this point. Even though we are husband and wife, we are still strangers to each other. So we need to understand each other and try to work it out and compromise a bit more. I tried to meet my husband's requests as best as I could, but I also tried to speak up when he was being unreasonable. I believe that by speaking up each time, my husband would gradually come to understand my feelings and thoughts. And now 1 year passed since we got married. But the situation did not change much. Rather, I became depressed than before. My husband's salary remained the same, and he was the one who said that his income would increase in no time. And the same goes for helping out at my in-laws' house. My in-laws seem to think it's just normal for me to help them, so they say, "Well, please do it," and even leaves me on my own at their home on a trip. I don't know if it's on purpose, but whenever I go to clean their house, there is always an unbelievable amount of laundry. My husband would say,
I'm staying at home.
And he doesn't even come over to my parents-in-law's house anymore when I go there. I felt extremely frustrated and wondered why I had to clean someone's house on my day off when no one was at home. Some might say that if there's no one to watch over you, why don't you just skip it? But when Nia comes home, she checks everything and gets extremely angry if she finds even the slightest thing wrong. My husband is still the same, and my life has not changed one bit, but rather it has gotten worse. When the word divorce began to cross my mind, my husband says something outrageous.
It's decided that we'll start living with my parents. At the earliest, we'll move in with them by the beginning of next month.
I couldn't believe what I just heard. Excuse me? What the heck are you saying?
Because that's convenient, isn't it?
Convenient for what?
You can focus on house chores. Plus, you used to help out a lot, so you're used to doing house chores in that house, right? It doesn't cost you rent too, so it's only an advantage.
No, it's only a disadvantage for me. I exploded everything that I had been holding back and took out my frustration on my husband, Daryl, since I've just had enough and I could not hold back anymore. You are so selfish. You didn't even ask me if I wanted to live with your parents, but you decided it on your own? You don't even listen or try to ask for my opinion? Besides, it's not like I was helping your parents out with the house chores. It's more like I was doing all their house chores for them. I don't want to go to your parents' place since they think of me only as their housekeeper. And what you said about your salary going up is just ridiculous. Who said that your salary would increase in a year? It's not increasing at all. If I continue like this and keep on believing your convenient words, then I can't keep on going on like this anymore. When I said this out loud, my husband turned bright red and argued back.
Shut up! How dare you argue back against me? Do you even have any idea how much I've been compromising here? If you're only going to be selfish like that, then let's get a divorce.
Daryl said angrily and left the house. And about 2 hours later, he got back home, but he was smirking at me.
I'm being serious, you know.
Saying that, my husband had passed the divorce papers to me. My husband has signed all his parts. I guess it seems like he also showed this to his parents already.
You know, I can divorce you anytime I want to. If you don't like it, then change that crappy attitude of yours. I'm going back to my parents' house for a while, so cool your head.
With these words, my husband left the house. I thought to myself, perfect, I'm going to submit this, and immediately went to my parents' house to tell them about it and file the divorce papers. I have been complaining to my parents about my husband and in-laws for some time, so they immediately agreed to the divorce. I decided to pack up my belongings and get ready to leave home. It took me longer than I thought to sort out the things I had bought during my marriage and the things I had bought when I was single. Still, I managed to get everything ready in between while I worked. I temporarily left my belongings at my parents' house and was looking for a room to live alone when my ex-husband suddenly barged in on me at my parents' house.
Hey, what the hell does this note mean?
I mean exactly what it says on the note. Do you not know English?
Stop kidding around. What do you mean I submitted the divorce papers? Why did you even do that without my permission?
Without your permission? You're the one who said I can divorce you anytime I want, right?
That was just a threat.
A threat?
You threatened my daughter? Oh, no. It was a figure of speech. Rather than a threat, I was just saying it as my opinion.
My ex-husband is weak against my father. My father is 6 foot tall, very fit and a bodybuilding expert who used to compete in national bodybuilding tournaments. My ex-husband, who is as thin as a bean sprout, would probably be thrown off if my father even touches him.
Anyway, I don't approve of the divorce.
I don't care if you do or not, because our divorce is finalized, so we're strangers now.
Don't be ridiculous. If you're going to get away with that kind of selfish way to get a divorce, I'll go ahead and sign the marriage papers on my own.
I'm not signing anything like that, okay? Besides, if you do that, then I'll lawyer up and sue you.
Sue? What?
I'm going to take you to court, and I'll prove to everyone how condescending and selfish you are, along with your parents on how they treated me, and fight until I get a divorce from you.
No way.
And if you keep on staying here, I'm going to call the police, okay?
Police? Please, don't do that.
My husband left as if he was running away, frightened. Wow, how pathetic can he be? Why did I marry such a person like Daryl? Later on, thanks to my father's presence and the pressure he put on my ex-husband, I was able to receive my share of the property with very favorable terms. In exchange for my ex-husband being able to live in that rental apartment and keep the furniture and appliances in the house, I was entitled to all the savings I had saved since our marriage. Since I was paid better than Daryl, he wasn't happy about the share property being cut in half. So I was glad to have it all for myself. My ex-husband moved back to his parents' house after the divorce, and apparently Nia did hurt her back while cleaning the yard and started forcing him to do the house chores. My ex-husband said,
I don't have my day off. Don't you think that's terrible? Help me out.
And so on, calling me and pressuring me to get back together with him, but I said, this is a good opportunity for you to take care of your parents. Go for it. And I hung up the phone and blocked the calls from him. The other day, I had a chance to work with someone from my ex-husband's former workplace, and I learned a fact about my ex-husband that I never expected. It seems that my ex-husband was not good at his job at all, and he was so useless that even his colleagues were promoted ahead of him. I was convinced that this was why Daryl had changed jobs. It seems that he thought he could get ahead in his career if he went to another company without realizing his lack of ability. He really is a hopeless person. I am sure Daryl will not be able to get any promotion at his current workplace. Well, I don't really care because it is no longer any of my business. On the other hand, I am planning to live at home, save money, and study abroad. After this marriage, I realized that I only get to live once, and if I don't do what I want to do, it will be a loss. First, I would like to study and live in France, which I have always wanted to do. When I look at my savings, I am excited because I feel like I am getting closer to my dream, step by step. I will study French and cherish the time I have every day. Even though I failed at my marriage, my life was just beginning. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video. Oh no! I forgot to make a reservation for Miss Jones. I'm sorry. My mother-in-law pretended to look surprised and grabbed my hands. The 5 of us went to the restaurant together, but she purposefully didn't save a spot for me.
Honey, there's no need to apologize. We originally made this reservation for our son and grandson. We don't need to include strangers.
My father-in-law encouraged his wife as he laughed loudly.
Hey, Emery, be sure to pay the bill. How great is it to treat your family to a meal?
After my husband Jose spoke, my in-laws laughed even louder. Their classless laughter didn't match the quiet atmosphere of this expensive restaurant. My son, Liam, looked at me uncomfortably. I wanted to flip the table they were sitting at, but I had no energy to fight them anymore, and I didn't want my precious son to have to see that. I sighed and turned around. Fine.
I'll watch over Liam, so don't worry.
Bye, Emery Jones. Even after marrying her son, my mother-in-law always called me by my maiden name, Jones. Today, she said it again with an annoying smile on her face. She always harassed me like this, but...
Excuse me.
As I held back tears and went to pay at the front counter, a waiter suddenly grabbed my hand. Huh?
Miss Jones, no way.
It had never occurred to me that this could happen. To think that I got to meet him again, thanks to a waiter noticing what my mother-in-law said as she harassed me. From that moment on, my life completely changed. When did my married life first start falling apart? I lived together with my husband Jose and son Liam. The happy life we lived in our 3-bedroom apartment is a story from the past. I first met Jose in university. He looked like a model and had a way with words, so there were many girls chasing after him. The fact he chose me must have meant he really liked me, right? Jose was the type that always put himself first. He hid that very well, but as we became closer, I quickly found out. I can be indecisive and feel most secure when I'm following people. I was surprised when Jose confessed his feelings to me, but thinking about it now, it must be because he liked my weak personality. As we were dating, I began to question his personality, but since such a great person chose me, I told myself not to be too picky. After we graduated university, my doubts became stronger. Thanks to his father's help, Jose was hired by a large company and was given preferential treatment. He was an only son, so his parents definitely spoiled him. My father-in-law's acquaintance managed an apartment building, so he gave us a solid discount on our rent. I assumed that my in-laws were upset. Jose had chosen me because they had taken care of and arranged everything so well for him so far. My in-laws despised me. I will never forget the contemptuous look in their eyes when we first met. Hey, don't you think your parents really hate me?
Really? You don't need to pay attention to them. You're not marrying them, you're marrying me.
At the time, Jose sounded strangely reliable, so I made the mistake of listening to him and thinking that it would be okay. Jose and I got married, but his parents still didn't accept me as part of their family. Even now, they still call me by my maiden name. A year after getting married, I gave birth to our son, Liam. Without Liam, I would have given up a long time ago. For the first year after Liam was born, my in-laws' attitude slightly changed. They were really happy to be having their first grandchild, and my mother-in-law even thanked me for giving birth to Liam. Those were the first and last words of gratitude I'd ever hear from her. Once Liam turned 2 years old, things returned to how they used to be, if not worse. If my in-laws visited our home, they would only look at Jose and Liam. Jose was also cheating on me while I was busy with Liam. No matter how many times I thought to myself that I want to escape, I decided I should stay with Jose until Liam becomes an adult. I told myself that even a father like Jose was better than Liam not having a father at all. But then one day, it was the weekend and my in-laws had come over to play with Liam as usual. As they were leaving in the evening, they said something surprising.
Oh, right. Let's have a birthday party for Jose next week. I made a reservation at King. King? That's the restaurant our CEO's son manages, right? I've heard it's really hard to get a reservation there. Yeah, I made a special request to the CEO for you. My father-in-law proudly said to Jose. I expected that they'd want to go somewhere without me like they did last year, but my mother-in-law turned to me. So, you should keep your schedule open too. Huh? As I was still collecting myself from my shock, my in-laws left. I didn't understand what was going on, but this could be the first step of us fixing our relationship. I became somewhat hopeful.
It was the day of Jose's birthday. We all gathered at the restaurant. Hearing that it was a high-class restaurant, I imagined a huge place, but it was actually pretty small. It was the type of place that only a select few customers could eat in at the same time. My father-in-law seemed very proud of himself. As we were entering, I saw a large engraved stone sign that said King. Seeing that name brought up some old memories, and I began to feel nostalgic. Thinking about it, there was a guy named King in high school. I began to smile without realizing. We were shown to a table in a private room. However, the table in the room had only 4 chairs. The waiter nervously turned to us.
I'm sorry. I will get one more chair for you. Oh, don't worry. 4 chairs are enough.
The waiter looked confused, but I immediately understood what my father-in-law was trying to say. My mother-in-law chimed in. Oh no, I forgot to make a reservation for Mrs. Jones. I'm sorry. My mother-in-law pretended to look surprised and grabbed my hands. The 5 of us went to the restaurant together, but she purposefully didn't save a spot for me.
Honey, there's no need to apologize. We originally made this reservation for our son and grandson. We don't need to include strangers.
My father-in-law encouraged his wife as he laughed loudly.
Hey, Emery, be sure to pay the bill. How great is it to treat your family to a meal?
After my husband Jose spoke, my in-laws laughed even louder. Their classless laughter didn't match the quiet atmosphere of this expensive restaurant. My son Liam looked at me uncomfortably. I wanted to flip the table they were sitting at, but I had no energy to fight them anymore, and I didn't want my precious son to have to see that. I sighed and turned around. Fine.
I'll watch over Liam, so don't worry.
Bye, Emery Jones. I heard more laughter behind me as I exited the room. I headed towards the exit as I wiped away tears that suddenly began rolling down my cheeks. The waiter that walked out of the room with me suddenly grabbed my hand.
Excuse me? Are you Mrs. Emery Jones?
Huh? Yeah. About the bill.
There's no need for you to take care of the bill. Please, follow me.
I wondered what was going on, but I didn't pull away my hand and follow the waiter. Even as we walked further away from the private dining room, I could still hear my father-in-law's loud voice.
It'll be so expensive that she won't be able to pay for it. She'll probably start crying.
If she can't afford to pay, she should wash dishes. As we headed towards a staff room, I breathed a sigh of relief because I finally couldn't hear my in-laws' conversation anymore. But why did the waiter take me here? He opened the door as I was getting more worried. A tall man with a pouty face stood in front of me. I recognized him from somewhere. Who could it be? I gazed at him seriously, and he raised an eyebrow. From that gesture, it hit me. Are you King?
Yeah, it's sure been a while, Emery.
The restaurant King was named after my friend from high school, King. King smiled and then became serious.
Emery, can you leave them to me?
Them? Do you mean my husband and in-laws?
Yeah, let's go there now.
He took my hand and wordlessly pulled me towards the private dining room. King opened the door with a bang. Everyone immediately turned to look at him. My father-in-law stood up and gave an amicable smile.
Oh, it's Chef King. You have a really serious look on your face. Did something happen? It's about Emery.
My in-laws looked shocked. King and I were classmates in high school. King was really rebellious at the time, and he skipped school often. After something happened, we began talking to each other and became friends. Though he looked aggressive, he was actually a very kind guy. After hearing what King said, my in-laws' faces both went blue.
Oh, we didn't intend to. Then please explain to me what you were trying to do.
Jose spoke up with a pathetic voice and stepped over to us. Turning to see what Jose was looking at, I saw an older man who looked like King coming towards us. I wanted to burst out into laughter, but the atmosphere in the room was intense.
Were you the people who treated my son's friend so rudely? But, boss, what happened? Won't you explain? He's wrong. There's been a misunderstanding. Hey, Emery, say something. I asked you, not Emery. I don't need rude employees like you. Don't come to our office anymore. No way! Wait, please, give me a chance. I'm incredibly sorry. Please, forgive us.
The two of them desperately apologized, and my mother-in-law began crying. Liam came over to me. He was scared, and he had tears in his eyes. I told him not to be scared and patted his head. With some time, he finally calmed down and smiled again.
If you're really sincere, you should prove it with your actions. Clean the restaurant after we close tonight. People with dirty hearts like yours should learn how to clean.
King and his father took Liam and I to a separate room and gave us an incredible meal. The food was amazingly delicious, though King acted very humbly. They even made a special kids meal for Liam.
Liam, your mom is a great person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you probably do. Do you want me to tell you a story?
King began sharing a story from the past. King hated studying when we were in high school. His parents were elites, but he was horrible at studying, so he had a very low opinion of himself and felt like he didn't belong in his family. He skipped class so many days that he was at the verge of getting expelled. One day, King and I were in the same group for a cooking assignment in home ec class. Can I try this? Wow, it's delicious! You're so good at seasoning food.
I did it randomly.
No way! I saw how many times you sampled the food. There's no way it was random. I didn't think much of what I said, but that was the first time King had ever received a compliment. Thanks to that, King began studying cooking. Of course, he didn't become a pro immediately. He made many mistakes along the way.
I'm really useless.
You're not useless, you just need to be creative with your cooking.
Huh?
No matter what kind of delicious ingredients you use, if they aren't cooked well, they won't taste good. Measure portions properly. Try different combinations. Or let things sit overnight once in a while.
Creative.
Similarly, no matter what kind of talent one has, it doesn't mean everything they make will be perfect. So, you need to be creative. That made King finally realize. He started to aim at being a pro, and he eventually became a world-renowned chef. From then on, King's relationship with his parents improved. But after hearing the whole story, I have to admit that I didn't get it. Did I really say something like that?
Did you forget?
Mom, you're amazing! King's story didn't stop there. He spoke to his employees about me many times. So when the waiter heard my name, he recognized it and knew he had to save me. So, the store name wasn't by chance.
Yeah, you're the one who once wrote my name with a C instead of a K, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose.
No, I'm happy that happened. You're the only person who paid attention to me then. I thought that writing the restaurant name with a C would make it stand out and be easier to remember. So, thank you.
One of the waitstaff called to King, and he exited the room. I thought over what I said to King back then. I should also be creative with my life. If I don't do my best, of course, things won't turn out how I want them to. Looking over at Liam, I made up my mind. I will divorce Jose and start my life from scratch. 1 year later...
Hey!
King! Liam rushed to hug King, who who had come over to visit. King hugged Liam back and smiled. After that time at the restaurant, King and I began seeing each other often and started dating. We're now considering getting married. I haven't talked to Liam about it yet, but I'm sure that he'll be happy. Liam was so attached to King that I was convinced of this. After that incident, my ex-father-in-law and Jose were both demoted. They screamed to their bosses for forgiveness. Large companies like theirs have complicated HR processes, so they haven't been fired yet. They're still holding on somehow in the company's shadows. King and I watched over Liam as he peacefully slept after getting tired out from playing with King. Liam is worried because he's not good at studying. He's tried his hand at cooking to be like you, but things didn't go well and he got even more sad.
Really? Isn't he very athletic?
Yeah. The other day, he got first place in a sprinting contest at school.
No need to worry about him then.
King and I made eye contact and smiled. I've always wanted to enjoy quiet time with my partner like this.
I will teach Liam the way you taught me. Everything is good at different things.
That's right. Thank you, King. King kindly patted Liam's head with his large hands. He really looked like they could be father and son.